What's up, everybody? JT Sports here, back to you guys with some breaking NFL news. The Atlanta Falcons have traded away longtime starting quarterback Matt Ryan to the Indianapolis Colts in exchange for a third-round selection in the upcoming 2022 NFL Draft. I have a couple of questions about this trade. My first question is for Indianapolis. What prompted them to choose Matt Ryan over guys like Baker Mayfield, Jimmy Garoppolo? Because I feel like Matt Ryan at this stage of his career is kind of in the same tier of a Baker Mayfield and a Jimmy Garoppolo. Productive starter. If you can give him the necessary pieces around him, he can win you a lot of games and get you into the postseason. And Matt Ryan is still a very solid quarterback. And I think that Baker Mayfield is a solid quarterback. Despite the fact that he had a down year last season, I still think Baker Mayfield's a solid quarterback. I'm not saying he's one of the best in the league or anything like that, but I consider Matt Ryan, Baker Mayfield to be, like top 16, top 18, 19 quarterbacks in the league. And, even Jimmy Garoppolo isn't that bad. That's what a lot of people say. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo is a winner. He finds ways to win games, okay? Like, I don't know how he does it. Despite the fact he doesn't have the best stats and whatever, he finds ways to win games. And even though the 49ers do win in spite of Jimmy Garoppolo at times, it seems like Jimmy Garoppolo does have his moments when, he's very good. However, he does have a lot of moments where he doesn't really look all that great. He looks average or below average at times. So, a lot of inconsistency when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo. And you look at Baker Mayfield, his career has been kind of up and down. I would have loved to see him go to Indianapolis because he's young. I felt like he would have been a great pairing with Frank Wright. But, getting Matt Ryan isn't too bad because for Indianapolis right now, you're basically trying to get who you can get. You're trying to get the best available quarterback. You're not really trying to be picky because you don't really have that much time to be picky. You get what I'm saying? Like, the quarterback market keeps going, and for all we know, there could have been another team that had interest in trading for Matt Ryan. So, my thing with this Matt Ryan trade is, I wonder how long is he going to play? Because he's been in the league for a while. He's 36 years old. And you wonder just how many productive seasons can Frank Wright squeeze out of Matt Ryan. And because we obviously know that Matt Ryan is declining. Pretty evident by, some of the games that I watched last season, the Falcons play. Matt Ryan definitely has kind of, slowed down a little bit. However, he's in a better situation with a better organization in Indianapolis versus where the Falcons were as a franchise, because the Falcons seem like they planned on trying to go in for a rebuild or they're trying to retool. And when you have a veteran quarterback like Matt Ryan, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to keep him on your roster when you're not trying to win. He deserves to have opportunity to try to win now before he ends up retiring. However, for Indianapolis, if you're their general manager, you're hoping that Matt Ryan can at least play for at least 3-4 years. And on top of that, is Indianapolis going to draft a quarterback? Because I think it would be in their best interest to, try to find their future successor. Because Indianapolis, I don't really think they have great plans when it comes to how they handle the quarterback position. Like, everything kind of seems to be on the whim thinking. They don't really think long term when it comes to the quarterback position. Like, you brought in Jacoby Brissett, not really talking about that because that was kind of something that you didn't really have nobody else. Andrew Luck retired out of nowhere. Nobody saw it coming, so you really had no choice but to roll with Jacoby Brissett at that point. But, you bring in Phillip Rivers. He only played one season. You bring in Carson Wentz. You only play him for one season, and then you get rid of him. So is Matt Ryan finally going to be the stabilizing force at quarterback for Indianapolis for at least 3 seasons? And then if you can keep Matt Ryan for 3 years, I think Indianapolis definitely needs to draft a quarterback in the draft. It doesn't have to be this year, but it has to be somewhere between, they got to take one next year, because Indianapolis doesn't really have a great track record after Andrew Luck retired of, evaluating the longevity of their quarterback situation. Like, I'm pretty sure Frank Wright thought that Carson Wentz was going to be the answer, but it didn't work out. And when you're bringing in these older quarterbacks like Phillip Rivers and Matt Ryan, it would just make sense to already draft their successor. So therefore, you're not finding yourself back in the same place that the Colts always seem to find themselves in after the season ends, right back in the quarterback market, bringing in a quarterback for 1 year, and then boom, he's done. Like, they have to draft Matt Ryan's successor, so when Matt Ryan retires, they can successfully move on to the next quarterback and already have their quarterback of the future already on their team, versus having to scour the market and try to negotiate trades for quarterbacks. Like, it just would be a little bit more simpler for Indianapolis if they already had their quarterback of the future on their team, to make the transition a little bit less painful. Now, Matt Ryan is a 4-time Pro Bowler. He is a former MVP. He won the NFL MVP honor back in 2016 when they were defeated by the New England Patriots. And he's 36 years old. And I think Indianapolis definitely is a better situation talent-wise than what Atlanta had, because you look at Atlanta last season, basically your only reliable target in the passing game was rookie tight end Kyle Pitts, who probably had one of the greatest rookie seasons for a tight end ever. Outside of him, you didn't have nobody. Calvin Ridley pretty much didn't play for the majority of last season. So Matt Ryan was basically thrown into, guys who, let's say, unless you're a Falcons fan, they're not household names. Now, Indianapolis, their wide receiving core isn't all that great. However, you do have Michael Pittman, who is coming off a breakout season. He's definitely somebody to watch out for. He's definitely going to be probably the number 1 target of Matt Ryan. Outside of him, I would like to see Indianapolis try to add some more pieces in the wide receiver room for Matt Ryan. The offensive line, I think the offensive line for Indianapolis should be pretty solid, even though they're still trying to work a couple of pieces on that offensive line out. I still think their offensive line is still going to be pretty solid. We already know they have a really good defense, even though they lost their defensive coordinator, Matt Eberflus, who is now the head coach of the Chicago Bears. You still have a pretty solid defense led by Darius Leonard, one of, if not the best linebacker in the league. So Matt Ryan has a defense. And nobody talks about this, but there were several occasions where, the Atlanta Falcons lost games, not because of Matt Ryan, because the defense was terrible. So I look at Matt Ryan, he's going to get Indianapolis to the playoffs. Not worried about that. Matt Ryan isn't a quarterback that I think is going to cost you games, and he's not going to play as reckless as Carson Wentz. Now, he's going to have a couple of throws that make you say, why would you throw that? But not as many reckless plays and turnovers as Carson Wentz. On top of that, I am rooting for Matt Ryan. I've always been a huge fan of Matt Ryan. And you got to wonder if Matt Ryan can get Indianapolis to the Super Bowl. And what further moves are the Indianapolis Colts going to make roster-wise to increase their odds of making a run to the Super Bowl? Because right now, I know we're like at the very start of the offseason. We're nearing the midway point with the NFL draft a couple of weeks ahead. But you look at Indianapolis and you look at their roster right now, isn't really equipped to be in the Super Bowl conversation with teams like Kansas City, Buffalo, and Cincinnati. However, with a couple of key acquisitions, a couple of key signings in free agency, because there's still a couple of notable free agents left that can definitely improve the Colts' odds. I think that Indianapolis, with Matt Ryan, you wonder just how far can they get in the postseason, because in the AFC, it's a gauntlet. Like, there are just stacked teams everywhere. The AFC North, stacked. Like, all 4 teams, you can make a legitimate argument. All 4 teams in the AFC North can make it into the postseason. Same thing with the AFC West, with Denver, Las Vegas, Kansas City, and LA. So you look at Matt Ryan, is he good enough, and is he going to perform at a high of enough level to elevate Indianapolis into that Super Bowl conversation? Now, one thing that Indianapolis is going to get out of Matt Ryan is the fact that you get somebody who has a high football IQ. You get a leader. You have a guy who knows what it takes to win. The thing with Carson Wentz was not only his reckless play at times, but the fact that he wasn't the leader that Indianapolis needed. You're getting that in Matt Ryan, which probably answers my question earlier of why Atlanta traded for Matt Ryan instead of Baker Mayfield, because we're hearing a lot of reports about mutual interest between Indianapolis and Baker. Indianapolis reportedly was Baker Mayfield's preferred destination. So what's going to happen next? Because, I mean, I've spent 10 minutes and 56 seconds talking about Indianapolis, but what about the Falcons? You're getting a 3rd round selection. However, who's going to be your starting quarterback next season? Because you don't have one at the moment. Now, the reports are that Atlanta is expected to pursue Marcus Mariota. They want to reunite him with former offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, and I'm down for it. I would love to see Marcus Mariota get another opportunity to be a starting quarterback in the league, and I think that Marcus Mariota is a solid starter. The problem with Marcus Mariota has always been durability, and on top of that, when he was a starting quarterback for Tennessee, Tennessee had a lot of problems when it came to retaining their offensive coordinator. It seemed like every single season, Marcus Mariota had a new offensive coordinator, or he was learning a new playbook all over again. So I would love to see him in Atlanta. I definitely feel like Arthur Smith is going to put Marcus Mariota in a offense that is best going to utilize his strengths. And he wasn't even that bad when he was a backup for Las Vegas. When he came in and played sparingly for the Raiders, you know, he was pretty solid. So I'm eager to see what Atlanta is going to do next at the quarterback position. They also potentially could draft one of the upcoming quarterback prospects in the 2022 NFL draft. Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, Malik Willis. They can go any direction at the quarterback position, or they could trade for Baker Mayfield. That could be very interesting to watch. But you guys let me know how you guys feel about this trade down in the comment section down below. Do you guys feel that Matt Ryan is going to be good enough to get Indianapolis into the postseason? And maybe, what are their odds with Matt Ryan when it comes to, making the Super Bowl? Also, make sure that you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss when I upload breaking NFL content. Also, upload college football videos as well. I appreciate you guys for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time.